Coming up on Network Africa, the Gambia's information minister resigns to protest the president's refusal to hand over power. Cote d'Ivoire's president sacks the country's security chiefs following a two-day army mutiny. And Togo prepares to take on top Group C at the 2017 African Nations Cup. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Temi Tokwe Fagbemi. We begin today's program in the Gambia, where the country's information minister, Sheriff Bojang, has resigned to protest President Yahya Jammeh's refusal to accept defeat in last month's presidential election. In a statement, he says that efforts to contest the results are an attempt to subvert the express will of the Gambian people. Reports say he has now fled to neighboring Senegal and is asking others to join him in resigning from the long-serving ruler's government. Meanwhile, the BBC is reporting that the Gambian Supreme Court will not be able to hear a petition from President Yahya Jammeh before May. The Nigerian judge, Onogeme Uduma, who is to act as president of the court, is currently unavailable. In the meantime, a trio of West African leaders, including Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, will travel to the Gambia tomorrow in a second bid to convince him to accept the results. Well, let's get more on this story from a research fellow at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Professor Charles Dokubo, you're welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me.
So what can we expect from the meeting ECOWAS leaders are scheduled to hold with President Jammeh tomorrow? Will it be any different from the first one?
I think they'll try as much as possible to use what we call moral suasion. It's to tell him the folly of his ways, and that if he does not hand over power to the elected government, then definitely some nation will stigmatize, ostracize, and marginalize him. So I think if the Gambia, which is mainly a tourist nation, is being cut off, then it becomes difficult for anyone to rule.
So do you think all these threats would work this time around? Do you think he'll be willing to dialogue with them?
I think he must have seen the handwriting on the wall and that the threat of invasion and all that. So I believe if Jammeh is a thinking person, and also if he has weighed all the options available to him, I believe that he will play game with them, with the organization.
Now, ECOWAS has threatened to intervene militarily if President Jammeh does not hand over power on January 19. Won't this be a violation of Gambia's sovereignty if the bloc goes ahead with this?
Before I agree, I'll also let you know that once a nation becomes part of an organization, it has also what sovereignty. His sovereignty is no longer absolutistic at this. So Gambia's sovereignty, being a member of ECOWAS, is a shared one. And that ECOWAS treaty on non-aggression also implies that if there is a crisis there, the organization could intervene in that area. So definitely, he cannot hold on that concept of sovereignty and then that his sovereignty has been impaired. No, he cannot, because he's a member of ECOWAS also.
Now, in the event of a military intervention, will ECOWAS then be obligated to do so for other sit-tight African leaders who have refused to hand over power? Again, we have to be very careful. If you look at the ECOWAS treaty on non-aggression, if a country is attacked from outside, then and only then can ECOWAS, intervene and then claim it as if an attack on one is an attack on the rest. But on the other hand, precedents have been created in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, where internal dissension has led to ECOWAS intervention. So if ECOWAS decides to intervene in the Gambia, it will not be the first action of ECOWAS. Also, let's remember, there's a new concept now, the responsibility to protect. If a nation is incapable of taking care of its citizens, then the international community has the right to intervene to make sure that peace and security is maintained in that country. So ECOWAS could play on that also. Now, Professor, my point is this. If ECOWAS decides to intervene in the Gambia in order to force Jammeh out of office, will it also be obligated to do so for other sit-tight African leaders who have refused to hand over power?
Yes, I think ECOWAS has the right. And then if you look at the African Union Constitution Act, it is clearly stated that any change of government by force will not be recognized and accepted by the organization. So if there are sit-tight rulers who have defied election results and all that, then definitely the African Union will have to come together and make sure that is put under a lot of pressure for him to hand over. So, and with Yahya Jammeh, wherever it happens, the African Union will also intervene and make sure that that country comes to its own people.
So finally, Professor, why is it that it's in Africa that leaders are usually reluctant to hand over power, and how can this trend be stopped on the continent?
The fact also remains that because of the fractured nature of things, most of these countries are very fragile countries with fragile institutions, and that they don't even want to obey the rules that have been set by even their own assemblies or by their own government. So that's why you have. And then when they are in power also, they've not done well for their people. So the fear of being called to give account of what they did is it's so frightening to them that they don't mind prolong the conflict in that country and to stay in power for as long as it takes.
Professor Charles Dokuba, thank you so much for joining us on the program. In East Africa, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has appointed his eldest son, a major general in the army, as a special advisor amid speculation that he is grooming him as a successor. Major General Muhoozi Kainerugaba rose rapidly through the ranks of the military and was the commander of the special forces with responsibility over his father's security. Last year, the president appointed his wife Janet as Minister of Education and Sports. Our appointment came after Mr. Museveni won a fifth term in elections rejected by the opposition as rigged. Meanwhile, Mr. Museveni has also promoted Brigadier Peter Elwelu, who commanded the forces which mounted an attack on King Charles Mombere's palace in November, to the post of Chief of the Land Forces. The brigadier's promotion is seen as reward for the operation, which led to the deaths of about 60 people. The king is accused of leading a secessionist movement and is in detention. Cote d'Ivoire's President Alassane Ouattara has dismissed the heads of the army, police and other paramilitary force following a two-day army mutiny that paralyzed the country. Disgruntled soldiers mutinied in the city of Bouaké on Friday, with troops in other cities joining the uprising. Defense Minister Alan Richard Douahi was also briefly seized by mutineers after he went to Bouaké to negotiate. The mutiny over pay ended when Mr. Ouattara agreed to their demands. Meanwhile, the president has appointed his former Prime Minister, Daniel Kablan-Donker, to be the country's first vice president. Mr. Duncan resigned as Prime Minister on Monday following the parliamentary elections won by the governing RHDP coalition. Staying in Cote d'Ivoire, the former rebel leader and ex-Prime Minister of the country, Guillaume Soro, has been re-elected as Speaker of the National Assembly with a 95% majority. Mr. Soro was confirmed in his position shortly after President Alassane Ouattara sacked the heads of security of the country following the mutiny that rocked barracks late last week. He stood for election as an independent lawmaker against Evariste Mbili, a contender from the ruling RHDP coalition. The Speaker is seen as a potential successor of President Ouattara when he steps down in 2020 at the end of his second and last term. Here in Nigeria, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Shola Enikonlaye, has responded to insinuations that Nigerian missions abroad are challenged by shortage of funds. He says funds have been approved and are being dispatched to the various missions. The ambassador says the federal government has also approved about 16 billion naira and a possible environment that should significantly reduce the financial burdens of the mission. A source in one of the missions had told Channels Television that some missions are in arrears of salaries between 3 and 4 months, and the exchange rate differentials in the country has made it such that salaries sent at the official exchange rate are short by 40% on arrival. So money sent to pay for 6 months only pays for 3 months. The source says officers are cash-strapped and are unable to pay utility bills, medical bills, and their children have been withdrawn from schools. The Nigerian Army says it is leaving nothing to chance as it explores other areas of dealing with the Boko Haram issue. One of the ways the Army has decided to go this year is by releasing 1,250 Boko Haram suspects who have been cleared and absolved of having links with the sect members. The General Officer commanding 7th Division of Nigerian Army, Major General Victor Ezugu, explains that the Army is constantly reviewing the list of those who are in their custody. The General spoke while engaging a delegation of the International Committee of the Red Cross, led by Mr. Beat Muziman.
Apart from the federal government's decision to engage genuine Boko Haram members, the Nigerian Army says it's constantly reviewing its list of terrorist detainees. 1,250 of them are cleared to go as they do not have anything to do with Boko Haram. Brigadier General Victor Ezugu explains to the International Committee of the Red Cross that the Army believes in engaging all groups before taking a position.
Is doing to ensure that the detainees are treated very humanely and given the best form of treatment in terms of making a home for them while they are still with us pending investigations. And we also collaborated on the issue of release of cleared suspects. So we are keeping this regular release because the Chief of Army Staff wants us to ensure that it is only people that has contacts and connections with Boko Haram and that have insurgency issues to sort out that are detained, so that those who do not have cause to be there are not there.
A lot is involved in the process of arrest of suspected terrorists, and General Ezugu says medical personnel are provided to ensure detainees are checked at least 3 times a week to ensure they are in good condition. Their feeding is equally of importance.
We are providing solid meals for them, Nigerian meals. They are going to be responsible for providing food supplements that will enhance both the well-being of the detainees. So, just like I said, it's a collaboration between we and the ICRC to ensure that we give the best.
The concern of the Red Cross is to ensure that every detainee is given a fair hearing before conclusions are drawn as to their level of involvement in terrorist activities.
We have several programs. The main program mainly is to help the IDPs who are in the camps and are going back. And that will be a very big program to help them going back. Other programs are including our cooperation with the Army in terms of protection. So we discussed several issues, how we can go ahead.
In this regard, the Army says the command will not do anything against the law.
In the world of sports, Togo's football team, the Sparrowhawks, are in their final preparations ahead of the 2017 African Cup of Nations, which kicks off this Saturday in Gabon. Togo, led by Captain Emmanuel Adebayo, failed to qualify for the last tournament in 2013, which was held in Equatorial Guinea.
Togo will compete in the tough Group C alongside African Cup defending champions Côte d'Ivoire, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Morocco, and will be led by team captain Emmanuel Adebayo. Although there is minimal chance, but if we draw 0-0 against Côte d'Ivoire and if DR Congo draws against Morocco, then it will be up to us to show what we are capable of. It's up to us to show us that we didn't come to just be a feature at the games, but that we came to win the matches. The most important is to go through the first stage, and then we will see what happens later. Sparrowhawks, once seen as one of Africa's top teams, but has struggled in recent years due to poor management. In 2013, Togo reached the Nations Cup quarterfinals for the first time, but failed to qualify in the last tournament in Equatorial Guinea. The appointment of veteran French coach Claude Leroy had raised hopes that he would revitalize the struggling Sparrowhawks, but he acknowledges that his team still has lots of work to do. We shouldn't tell ourselves stories. Those who want to believe that we are going there to win, that's not the case. We are there to learn. We are going to play and to pose a problem to our adversaries, to win the matches, those that we can win. But we have to be realistic about the things that separate us from the other teams, like Morocco, Côte d'Ivoire and DR Congo. Sports analysts also say that one of the main challenges that the team faces is that a number of players in this year's squad, including Adebayo, are free agents who have not been getting much play time. The edition of the biennial tournament is holding from January the 15th to February the 5th.
Well, we'll have more on the African Cup of Nations when our sports correspondent Austin Okunakwan joins us live on the meantime. And still to come on the program, Italy reopens its embassy in Libya 2 years after closing it. Please stay with us.